Ferrari didn't get much airtime during the race, but let's give it to them now. Charles Leclerc led a Ferrari 1-2 from 4th on the grid after Verstappen and Norris fought each other into turn 1, and once he was ahead, he never looked back. Ferrari also didn't bring any upgrades to Austin, unlike Red Bull, McLaren and Mercedes. They're going to be hard to beat now for the rest of the season. I'm back, and while I was away, we hit 10,000 subscribers on the channel, which I'm extremely grateful for, so thank you. But even though I was away, there was videos on the channel, including the history of the Vietnam Formula 1 race that never happened, details of the Formula 1 safety car, which was very interesting, and some of the wildest Formula 1 moments. So if you haven't checked any of those videos out, I urge you to do so, because I promise you they will be at least moderately entertaining. Clearly though, the biggest incident of the weekend's race was the Norris overtake on Verstappen, and this will divide opinion, no doubt. The facts before we get into the opinion though are pretty straightforward. Neither driver makes the corner, both go over track limits, and while doing so, Norris overtakes Verstappen. In fact, when you watch it back, you can see Norris, he accelerates off the track to gain the position. The big issue I have here is the rules as they're written. The rules say, when considering what is a significant portion for an overtaking on the outside of a corner, amongst the various factors that will be looked at by the stewards when exercising their discretion, the stewards will consider if the overtaking car is ahead of the other car from the apex of the corner. The car being overtaken must be capable of making the corner while remaining within the limits of the track. When defending, if you're ahead at the apex, you have the right to the corner, and the rules don't specify how fast you're going when you reach the apex. It was clear that Max was ahead at the apex. However, that's not the whole story. He was ahead at the apex because he braked so late to ensure that he was there so that he had the right to the corner, and as such, didn't make the corner himself. The rules are clear that the car being overtaken must be capable of making the corner while remaining within the limits of the track. Max didn't do that on this occasion, but Norris didn't help himself by accelerating off the track either. We've seen Max do this for as long as I can remember. I could take you back to the most extreme example from Brazil 2021. That was the most clear-cut abuse of the rules that I've seen. Max was nowhere near making the corner and abused this rule to ensure Hamilton couldn't get past, but the stewards saw nothing wrong. And it's not his fault. He's just a very intelligent driver using the rules to his advantage. He'll simply brake very late when being overtaken to make sure that he hits that apex first, and then he has the right of way at the corner, even if he doesn't make the turn himself. Because according to the rules, he has the right of way anyway. Let's go back to the first lap of the race when Verstappen went off the track and maintained his position ahead of Carlos Sainz into turn 12. To confuse matters even more, this is actually a different situation to the Norris incident, even though they look similar, because in this instance, the car on the outside, Verstappen, is defending rather than attacking. So yeah, the rules are different. But he goes way off the circuit, as does Sainz, but no further action was taken. Yes, it was lap 1, and yes, it's different to the first situation, but it's also easy to see how it would be confusing for the average fan that one got a penalty and the other didn't. Let's go all the way back to Austria, when Lando and Max were fighting at the end of the race into turn 3. Again, Max goes way off the track and keeps the position by doing so. No penalty. You could definitely argue that Norris wasn't ahead at the apex in this particular incident, but being ahead at the apex isn't actually that simple because it's reasonably subjective. And that takes us on to the Russell penalty. Again, depending on where you consider the apex to be, you could argue they are neck and neck at the middle of that apex where I determine it to be. Russell takes the racing line, Bottas goes off. Russell is then given a penalty for forcing another driver off the track. We saw this numerous times into this corner. Again, there are differences here and subtleties compared to the Verstappen-Norris incident, but all the current overtaking rules do is breed confusion. Mercedes, well, they had a bit of a mixed bag, didn't they? After Russell's crash in qualifying, that meant that rather than starting in P6, he was forced to start from the pits. Now, just to clear something up, he didn't start from the pits because of the change of parts. They reverted his car to the Singapore spec parts. But he started from the pits because the team had to brake park Fermi to fix his car overnight. That's why he started from the pits. An early safety car helped him get a little bit closer to the pack, but he raced brilliantly to get up to 6th, embarrassing Checo Perez. You know, being beaten by a car that started from the pits when you started inside the top 10 is, you know, it's not a great look. Then Hamilton, on the other hand, had a weekend to forget. He had a terrible qualifying session. He said he wanted to start from the pits and make changes to the car, but it's possible that because there was so much work going on Russell's car, that's what stopped him from having any changes made to his car. Then he started from P17, I think it was, but he went off on lap 3 in a very odd error that you don't really see from him all too often. He ended up in the gravel, and that was his race over. A mistake that Toto Wolff said was 100% the car. Said there was bouncing, then the rear went round, and it was the exact same corner and very similar incident to what Russell had in qualifying. So Mercedes need to get on top of whatever was causing the issues with the car after they brought those upgrades. Lastly, a big shout out to Lawson and Colapinto. Brilliant race from both of them. They're both fighting for a place on the grid next year. Colapinto currently outshining Albon, it has to be said, over the last few races. Either way, we are one race into a triple header now. It's something like 8 races or 6 races in 8 weeks, something like that. It's bonkers. I think it's 2 triple headers to end the season. So we are well on our way to the finishing points. But I do think Max has it sewn up now. I think Norris needed to finish ahead of him, and now you've got the 2 Ferraris that are going to be taking points off them left, right, and centre. I think it's going to be an uphill battle without a DNF from Verstappen. Either way, we'll be here for the upcoming race in Mexico. Stay tuned to the channel. I'll see you then.